And good afternoon to everyone that has joined us for our introduction to the learning groups. We're going to get started momentarily, but a couple housekeeping notes. Again, my name is Vince Crivello. I think I know everyone on the line here. Heading up practice management on the Loring Ward side, but excited to come to you today remotely, actually from Austin, with Meredith in St. Louis, and I believe Tim in Charleston. So we are getting together like we have over the last year to introduce some exciting new ways to grow and develop and learn as we move into 2020. Again, before we get started, this will be recorded. Your regional director will have a lot of information. Feel free to reach out to all of us as well. As you can see here, Tim still wins the award for best bow tie. It's funny, we've been working together on a number of initiatives. We just wrapped up our national conference a couple weeks ago. Got our advanced conference coming up here. So there is a tremendous amount going on. And many of you have seen kind of where we think the industry is going. We've introduced an elements of value type of pyramid, thinking about what you need to do as an advisor to deliver that exceptional experience. So as we think about where we are headed and where we can help you, we believe the learning groups are a tremendous opportunity to do that. So in terms of our agenda today, we're going to cover the why, the what, the how of the learning groups, and really want you to understand where it fits into our broader educational offering. As you can see here in front of you, between Meredith, Tim, and I, we've been working diligently over the last 6 months to really put together an integrated offering, not only on the event side, but on the study group side as well. I have been with the company now a little over 10 years, and I remember one of my first meetings way back when, which was the study groups, and the opportunity to connect with your peers and the opportunity to really get some valuable insights. To quote Rob Ryan, it was instrumental in some of his early success in ramping up with evidence-based investing and really planning and delivering a better experience. So as we go to the next slide and we think about the importance of delivering value to our clients, what we've done is we've taken the study group concept and we've taken the best of what we've learned on the BAM side, and we're bringing this all together into a comprehensive learning group structure. Now, how this fits in, if we go to the next slide with the broader offerings, you'll see some of the events that we've talked about already. Some of these foundational types of events that are coming up in 2020. You've known them in the past as cornerstones or maybe the keystones. We've got a robust curriculum that we're developing via learning management system, kind of an e-learning system. And then ultimately, we see the learning group as an opportunity to really provide a venue and a suite of peer-to-peer coaching capabilities that will really elevate your practice and we believe make a material impact to your clients. So what I'd like to do now is turn it over to Tim Maurer, who will provide some additional detail and context around what the learning groups are and the impact that they've made on advisors in the past.
Vince, before Tim chimes in, this is Meredith Bogus here, and I just wanted to share with the listeners, thank everyone for tuning in, and share that this expression that Vince has teed up for us and that Tim will continue to go into in detail is really a reflection of the work that has come from the integration of BAM and Loring Ward. You may have heard either at our national conference or in communications leading up to today's call that we've really embraced a 1 + 1 = 3 mentality, and that feels very true as we combine Vince's practice management initiatives, the work done on our team with advisor engagement and advisor development, we've done that to your benefit. So we've really spent this entire year cultivating the best of the events and learning and development that was happening on the Loring Ward side with the same that's happening on the BAM side. And this introduction to learning groups is the outcome of that process, and one we're excited to share with you. So Tim, if you want to dive into what that experience is like, then we'll wrap up with a few questions after.
Happy to, Meredith. Thank you very much. Yeah, the learning groups, for those of you who aren't familiar, go back in the BAM world about 13 years. And initially were an outgrowth from a bunch of advisors who went to a great CEG training. And they wanted to engage in something that would enable them to continue that process of learning and development. So it was initially started by advisors, most of whom were founders of firms and also founding members of the BAM Alliance. And then as we continued down the road, we began to partner with them to bring even more value to the experience. And now we've developed almost a systematic approach to this learning group experience. You can see here we've got a stated mission to create a systematic yet dynamic personal and professional development platform for best practices. And I would say that beyond that, our objective is that, especially now that we've joined with Loring Ward, is to have a truly best-in-class experience. So if you envisioned what it was that you might have said, this is the best in class, whether that might be something like CEG, which has served so many of our advisors so well, whether it is something like strategic coach or perhaps an individual coaching operation that you might have experienced. Our objective is to have something that is truly the best in class experience. And one of those benefits comes specifically as a result, the fact that this is a cohesive community with a unified client experience. So while many other learning opportunities have much to offer us from external perspective, oftentimes it becomes more of a challenge to integrate that thinking into our daily work, into the client experience, because it may not be perfectly in sync. Well, here we have an opportunity to do just that. I'd also love to show you the values that we have stated that unite our commitment and drive our actions as advisors. And here what you see is a collection of values, of words that have a great deal of meaning to us based on research that we've done over the course of many years, looking at what works well in the midst of personal and professional development, but also what we have seen work empirically over time. And that's not just what we have seen, the small w we in the terms of the BAM Alliance and Buckingham, but that's a combination of the work that we are doing with Vince and with Steve and others at Loring Ward. So beyond that, I'd like to discuss a bit about our method. And so there is a method that has been employed. I want to be very clear to you that this method is something that is ongoing. So we don't feel as though as facilitators, we have it all figured out. We know that we've learned a lot throughout the years. We know that folks have said that the experiences they've had in BAM learning groups and Loring Ward study groups have been some of the best experiences they've had in those communities. But we also believe that a perpetual cycle of learning is something that we have to commit ourselves to. So one of the things that you'll note at the close of every learning group gathering is really a very intentional and detailed interrogative where we can learn what worked for you in terms of evaluations and what didn't necessarily work for you. Because you guys, what you need and what you want is really what ultimately drives the success of these. So we prize engagement and experiential learning. We know that this is something that you have experienced in the best of learning and development in the past. Engaging you as facilitators with a responsibility to go out there and see what is happening in the industry, what the trends are, what we can do better to better serve our clients, but then also on an experiential learning level. So we will bring in thought leaders and insight, both from within our community and without our community. But then we also have extended sessions, if you will, that enable us to work through those ideas in terms of our best practices, to learn what has worked for advisors, what hasn't worked for advisors. Autonomous accountability is a big part of this. This is an opt-in community. And what you'll what you'll see me close with in a moment is that this is an all-in endeavor. We believe that people self-select to be in this, and you're not just self-selecting to be a consumer, but also someone who is giving to this community, because indeed it's through those best practices that we learn the very most. And in terms of our content, we then have broken that down into 3 basic categories that then have a lot of drilling down in each of those. The first is engagement, where we have intentional sessions designed to enable you to share with each other insights and actions, everything from member spotlights of firms to get to know how people run their firms better, to book reports. When someone has read something that has given them a great deal of meaning, we have sessions designed specifically to enable the other attendees to get the best points from that book if they have not had the ability to read it themselves. And then the other 2 layers are professional development and personal development. I'll talk about professional development first. We know that everything continues to evolve in our business. There was a time where BAM and Loring Ward advisors, maybe even 5 years ago, were still sufficiently differentiating themselves from the rest of the industry based on the fact that they were evidence-based investors, that they were avowed fiduciaries and had the best interest of their clients at heart. Nowadays, we can see that that's something that can be purchased for $300 up front and $30 a month with Schwab and other virtual offerings that are out there, even with dedicated CFPs and comprehensive planning with a fiduciary focus. So we need to continue to evolve our practice well beyond evidence-based investing to include the whole client at a quantitative level, but then also at a qualitative level. So indeed, many of the early advancements in our client experience are going to be often delivered through the learning groups and also utilizing sessions like the feed forward sessions I know you've enjoyed with Vince in the past. So from a professional development perspective, there is a robust spectrum, a comprehensive spectrum of content that we will be reviewing. But much like the very best of the coaching operations out there in the industry and not in the industry, as something like Strategic Coach, for example, is not obviously inside of the financial industry. We believe that our professional development is necessarily limited and supported by our personal development. In other words, there is a correlation between personal development and professional development. So we're not only going to be bringing the very best of professional development, the practice of wealth management, we also aim to aid you in personal development through elements like Sharpen the Saw, productivity, helping you to make more of the time that you spend on a daily basis, and also creating genuine experiences of meaning that will stick with you, right? That these are times that you'll be saying with your learning group colleagues, do you remember when we went to Charleston, South Carolina 4 years ago and had that event at the aquarium? Whatever it might be, we absolutely put together some of the best experiences that we can envision. Now, I'd like to close by talking a little bit about execution and expectations. To give you an idea of what these meetings look like, we typically meet 3 times per year. So there is the first gathering takes place at the end of January. It's called Winter Camp. And this is an opportunity for us to get together as a learning group. We actually bring all of our learning groups to a single location. This year it will be in Austin, Texas, just a horrible place to spend time, of course, Austin. And at that, you will have joint sessions as well as individual sessions with each of your learning groups. Winter Camp has a particular, like, let's get to work kind of vibe about it, but also has a general theme of annual planning. So we'll be installing sessions that are designed specifically to help you learn from what you did well and what you may not have done as well in the previous year, and also put together an annual plan for the year ahead. The second gathering throughout the course of the year, we refer to as the summer retreat. And here's where you will be meeting at a specific location only with your learning group for the extent of that 2.5 days. And the objective at the summer retreat is to up the experience just a little bit. It's the summer retreats where people are invited to bring their spouses or partners, and it indeed has a little bit more of an experience that is built into it, both in terms of the location and in terms of the agenda. And then lastly, we have the National Conference VIP experience, which is effectively a pre-conference to the National Conference, a day where learning group members come in a day early. We have content that is dedicated specifically to them. And here again, you will have opportunity to be just with your learning group, which could be 20 to 30 individuals, as well as all of the learning group members meeting and networking and interacting together. Ordinarily, if we're talking about winter camp or your summer retreat, day one is attendees arriving in time for a group dinner. Day two is an all-day learning experience followed by a nighttime event. And then day three is a half day of learning, allowing for you to take an afternoon or evening flight to get on your way. That's talking a bit about the frequency. I've already mentioned this all-in mindset because I want to be very clear about something. There are a lot of brilliant advisors out there who are doing tremendous work for their clients, but for whom they feel as though I've kind of got it, right? They've compartmentalized the way that they do business. They're very pleased with it, and then work as consumers to bring in additional information that might benefit them. There is absolutely nothing wrong with running your practice that way. But we absolutely believe that a learning group and environment is a one that's designed to be necessarily reciprocal. In other words, if for anybody who's familiar with the great Adam Grant book, Give and Take, our members anticipate that they will be giving as much as they will be getting. And we believe that the overall experience and the benefits to be derived are enhanced for everybody when that is the case. It also means that from an attendance perspective, you're making a commitment that you're all in. We believe that each individual member of the group adds to that whole in such a meaningful way that barring any emergencies, our expectations are that every member will be at every gathering. And then lastly is the cost. Yes, this is a commitment that does have a cost associated with it. It's $2,750 for the year. That fee serves multiple purposes. One, it enables us to enhance experiences further, to bring in some external speakers. But as you might imagine, a gathering like this or a triplicate of gatherings on an annual basis is worth a heck of a lot more than $2,750. What is that, 10% perhaps of an annual commitment for a CEG or strategic coach or other program of that nature? So obviously it's heavily subsidized. But based on all of our research going back, especially in the arena of behavioral economics, we know it's important for people to have skin in the game. We know that it's a little bit easier to be all in if you are writing even a reasonable sized check that you feel that you are even more of a partner in the process. And that's the reason that we have a cost that is associated with this particular program. Now, I've run my mouth for, I believe, a sufficient period of time that now would be a great time to pause and listen to you all and see what questions we might be able to answer for you.
Yeah, Tim, there have been a few questions coming in, so I'll read those aloud and address them as they come. The first one was, how many people approximately are in each group? Tim, do you want to share with our listeners how we think about group size and to date what the ideal number has been?
I'm happy to. And we try not to be too legalistic about this, because what's really most important to us is the dynamic of each group is as rich as it could possibly be. And that means really working with you all, working with RDs and team leaders to ensure that this is just a great and diverse mix of people in each of these learning groups. The number that we have toyed with as an absolute cap is 30. And that's just to ensure the degree of intimacy that we hope would be there at these types of gatherings, that it would not feel like a national conference, that it feels like an environment that is manageable and accessible. And it also helps ensure that people can share as much as they feel comfortable, knowing that there is a cloak of privacy over this group. People have a tendency to become lifelong friends as a result of their interactions. So In terms of the numbers, it could be, and especially I would think over the course of the next couple years, you'll see these groups building a little bit. It will be based on demand, but the group could be as few as, say, 18, 20, but likely no more than 30. Is there anything more you might add to that, Meredith or Vince?
No, I think that's sufficient. And in fact, we've had a few other questions come in. So in the spirit of moving right along, the question has been raised, are these groups regional or national? And I'll go ahead and tackle that one. They are, in fact, national, unlike things in the past that have been designed to incorporate advisors who are close to each other geographically. The focus for learning groups tends to be on how do we get the right mix in the room. So it's less about where your practice is located and more about growth mindset, tenure at firms, size of practice, and a number of other variables we work one-on-one with advisors to define, to ensure that their experience is what we'd hope it would be. The next question is, does this replace Admired Advisor? Vince, do you want to chime in on that one?
Sure. The Admired Advisor Group is a unique opportunity for advisors to apply and collaborate on the learnings from the Summit series that we've done in previous years. So that group will continue on in its existing form. And this learning group opportunity really augments that. So if you have specific questions around Admired Advisor and how this might fit into your practice and the learning groups, please work with your regional director on that, or give me a call separately.
Thanks, Vince. How long is membership in each group? I'll tackle that one. This is not a sort of like term limit kind of experience where we expect advisors to cycle in and out after a certain number of years. Rather, we hope that advisors commit for the long haul. For many members, barring retirement or some other professional change, they are in the group indefinitely. And then that is indeed something we think makes the group better. So we, on occasion, will add new members when appropriate, but in general, it's something that's intended to be a long-term commitment.
Yeah, and one thing that's fascinating to me, Meredith, is we've even seen advisors who even after retirement have remained emeritus members and still have much to add to the group.
Thanks, Tim. I'm going to kick this next question to you, in fact, Tim. How are groups organized and formed? Is it by the size of practice type, the age of the practice, the age of the owner, the number of employees? Can you share with the group a few of the filters that we use when placing members into each one?
I'd be happy to, and I would say this is one of those things that I mentioned we learn along the way. There was a time where we really designed these to have more specifics associated with them, right? Where it might be about the size of the firm, the number of employees, the amount of assets, how much experience somebody had as an advisor. I will tell you this, these groups are really only available on an invite-only basis to those who we deem are just great advisors. We call them rock stars internally. So congratulations for being on this call. You're a rock star. So we've actually limited our number of qualifiers, because what we found was that by allowing a little bit more diversity among a group who is all in and are all rock star advisors, that created a richer environment. There was actually even more to learn when there were folks who had firms of varying sizes, firms that were, as you were mentioning, Meredith, more geographically disparate. The difference between, the firm that's in Northwest Iowa serving predominantly farmers and somebody in Silicon Valley who may be focusing on LGBTQ specific planning. And so what we have found is that to limit the number of qualifiers, to rely on the intuition of you and your RDs has helped us put together groups that, while not as perhaps compartmentalized, are even richer communities.
Yeah, and I'd add that among a couple of other follow-ups that'll happen after this call, for any advisor interested in pursuing this opportunity in 2020, one definite next step would be a call with a member of our team and your RD to unpack those very things, which is, what is it that you're looking to get the most out of the experience? What would be the best fit for you? So we want that to be a very collaborative experience, not just with you, but with those on your team at Loring Ward that know your practice best.
Meredith, I got one question that came in specifically related to the possibility of integrating George Kinder training in learning groups. And what I would tell you is that the wisdom of George Kinder has already been employed in learning groups, as has the wisdom from Money Quotient and Rick Kaler and Ted Klontz. For those of you not familiar with any of those names, we're talking about a handful of the thought leaders in the qualitative planning space, the financial life planning space. And so while we would not take a learning group and say, all right, we're all going to go to the George Kinder 2-day or 5-day, let me tell you a couple of things. One, we will be having Kinder trainings, both of the 2-day and the 5-day variety, that are specifically designated for our community. That is anybody in the BAM and Loring Ward community. That's something that after this year's conference and the great feedback that we got from folks after George's 2 sessions, we're going to be doing that. Now, furthermore, as it relates to these learning groups, Vince and I are working on a project right now that is specifically designed to further enhance the qualitative exploration that we do in our work. That is the work that we would label as life planning or financial life planning. We believe that of the elements of planning that cannot be or are the least likely to be commoditized, as so many of the other areas of our work have been, we believe this is one where we have a lot of blue ocean, as it were, if you're familiar with that illustration, that we have an opportunity to get out in front, to chart a path in this regard. And so you could anticipate that you will see even more of this. And indeed, while we will connect you to thought leaders like Kinder, like Money Quotient, like Kaler and Klontz, we are also going to be making those elements of financial life planning in our own joint client experience even more robust. And so you will see the wisdom of each of those that are going to be employed in our own proprietary discovery and financial life planning approach.
Vince, anything you'd add to that?
I think it's, just an example of the 1 + 1 = 3. There are so many opportunities to bring great concepts and content, things like spend down, what we're talking about in terms of DBP, design, build, and protect implementation strategy, working with Ernest Clark on concepts around estate planning strategies, lots of tremendous internal content coupled with external content, but most of all, really cultivating that community and the peer-to-peer aspect of this unique investment philosophy. I mean, if you look at some of the consistencies across what we've done on the Loring Ward side in terms of the study groups, and prior to that, even the CFO forums, there's a shared philosophy, a client-first mentality, call it a fiduciary mentality, but an approach that really focuses on investment-based, evidence-based investing, putting the clients first, and then ultimately delivering a better experience, leveraging all that internal and external content. That's why I'm so excited about this. It really, I tell you, in years past, I'd have to refer out to various coaching programs. Now we don't have to do that anymore. This is a program that I've experienced firsthand over the last 12 months, beginning with Winter Camp last year in Austin, and so excited to bring this to the Loring Ward advisors now in 2020.
And Vince, I love that you brought up the term evidence-based investing, because it's one that most of us are very familiar with, but we're also seeing that expand to evidence-based wealth management, right? It's looking at every aspect of the wealth management experience, including discovery and life planning, as well as risk management and estate planning, et cetera, expanding that brand, if you will, of strength that our community has always shared, that evidence-based foundation across the entire spectrum of wealth management.
The last question segues nicely into our close in respect to everyone's time, and that has to do with logistics and our calendar and how far out in advance we plan. You know, we acknowledge that for everyone on the phone, life and work is busy, and that the decision to leave our families and our practices in order to attend a meeting is no small one. And we like to do what we can on our end to make that as efficient as possible. To that end, we typically know always when the first and third meeting of the year will be. So winter camp will take place this year, January 28th through the 30th in Austin, Texas. And we try to stick with that same week of the year every year. Likewise with the national conference that will take place October 18th of 2020 in St. Louis. So that meeting with the learning groups will happen right before that, the day before that starts. The summer meeting will either be the last week in April or the first week in June, and that sort of just depends, but we try to give several months, if not a half year's notice of when that will be so that everyone has plenty of time to plan around. So know that we want to do what we can on our side to make it easier for members to prioritize these meetings so that you're able to both look forward to them for that time on the calendar and do what you need to do to prepare to be gone. With that, we're so appreciative that you've taken time out of your day to join us and learn more about an opportunity that we're all quite passionate about and proud of. And after this call, what will happen is you'll receive a follow-up email that contains a document that outlines what we've talked about, and then an invitation to next steps. If you're interested in going, there'll be some action items. If you're interested in joining, rather, there'll be some action items within that email that you can initiate so that we can continue the conversation with your regional director and with our team to fully vet the opportunity for you, and I hope to welcome you all into groups next year. So with that, thank you. Be expecting to hear from us soon. And we will always, as Vince mentioned earlier in the call, be available for questions or emails or phone chats before you hear from us next, as are your RDs. Thanks all. Have a great afternoon.
Thanks, everyone.